Absolute devastation to liberation. 20-year relationship destroyed by cheating wife. Part 2. Ring exclamation asterisk ring. Oh my goodness, who could that be? It's my WS, and we were meant to meet for coffee to talk about the divorce and the tangled paperwork. She informs me she won't be able to make it at the appointed time, but that if I contact her 2 hours later, we can meet up. Fine. I go through additional hoops, and when I contact her, she says she's up at the neighboring family mountain cabin and that I should come up for the week and stay with her. Okay, I'll just throw away all my integrity and the sliver of self-respect I've found and jump back in the sack. No way. We're not going. After explaining the significance of going through the divorce process, I refuse the offer. She becomes agitated and irritated that I am not eager to abandon everything in my life and rush up to the cottage. When I question her about the AP, she says he broke up with her as soon as I was out of the picture. I suppose karma is a fickle beast at times. When we eventually meet for coffee and I bring all the documentation, she compliments me on how well I look and how well I seem to be doing. Nope, I'm heartbroken, and this isn't a game to me. What's up? We go through the specifics of dividing up the home, which she claims she is entitled to more than half of. I'm not to touch her 401k, and as a compromise, I get to keep my 10-year-old company undisturbed. I'm going to continue on her insurance for the length of the divorce, and we'll have things sorted out as soon as possible. As I turn to go, she chases me and follows me to my vehicle, mumbling about something. I inquire, spinning on my heel, whether she has anything to say about herself. I'm desperately looking for regret, maybe a fragment of a piece of the person I thought loved me. I'm sorry, and for what? I respond. For, I really apologize for what I did. The words faded off, as though released by Zootopia's tiniest church mouse. It was a harmless attempt that reeked of shell shock from being caught, rather than regret in action. In some ways, it was beneficial, since it confirmed that my assumptions were true, and that I understood where I stood. She wasn't upset because of anything she did. She was sad because she had lost me as an asset with her cover exposed and now wanted this guy back in her life, who had once done anything for her. It was the only apology I'd ever get. She asks what our story will be, and I hesitate to try to figure out what she's asking. So, what are we going to tell people? What are we going to say occurred? That we simply wanted to visit other people or whatever? What is our story? Oh my gosh, yeah. You may say anything you want about our narrative, but I'm going to speak the truth to everybody who will listen. That's exactly what happened. You crushed my heart, you walked away from marriage, and now you want your cake. I've had enough and I don't need to make up a tale to make myself feel better. Okay, bye. I turn and walk away, and as soon as I cross the street, a train arrives, putting an end to our talk. I quickly get in my vehicle and contact every one of her relatives about the divorce and what transpired. No, we're talking about Wolverine claws. I felt okay about closing the door, knowing there was no healthy way to mend things and acknowledging it wasn't a healthy relationship to begin with. Other catastrophes continued to come my way as the divorce process progressed. I was shot with a full-bore double-barreled shotgun. Our home flooded on Super Bowl Sunday 3 months before D-Day, when my WS was away on one of her business or escapades excursions. I went to a friend's house and returned home to discover our garage half filled with water. She was supposed to be in Amsterdam, where several field offices were located, but when I phoned to inform her of the calamity, it seemed like she was just next door. In any case, she simply begins shouting at me to repair it, which is exactly what I'm doing. If I had been wise, I would have dashed to Home Depot in the final few minutes. It was open and gotten a sump pump to empty the driveway. Fortunately, our garage was connected to a full basement and was located at the lowest point on the land. Water, on the other hand, has completely infiltrated the garage and almost burst the step up to gain admission into the home. I contact a buddy who is a landscape architect and can help in a variety of ways. We fill sandbags till midnight, but heavy rain is preventing us from progressing. We've protected the property for a few moments, but it's going to crest due to the year's record rainfall. We devised a plan to divert the water from the driveway to my basement utility room, where the drain is located. We get some 60-foot garden hoses and I start tugging with my lungs to get the water to flow. It's effective. Aside from a mouthful of groundwater, I get a lovely continuous stream of gallons, minutes streaming to the drain. The driveway does not retreat, but it also does not overflow. This afforded me some time to bail calf-deep water around the house, which I did by pulling up approximately 5 gallons at a time with a shop vac and heaving it over. We have one leaky gutter, and instead of draining down the French drain, it's overflowing onto the driveway. I begin filling a large rubbish can, which must be emptied every 3 hours or it will fill with rainwater. I'm soaking. I've been in the rain and water for 24 hours, and I haven't slept. When I sleep, I set an alarm to get up and leave so that no harm is done. I fly to Home Depot the following morning and buy an electric pump, which practically saves the day. This modest $1.50 or less pump diverts over 3,000 gallons of water per hour and entirely moves the driveway down the street to run off in approximately 3 hours. Yes, I had about 9,000 gallons of water piled up on my driveway, leg to knee deep. The next day, I go to work and visit my landlord for the business. He owns a construction firm, and I tell him about my ordeal. He quickly contacts his disaster team and delivers free industrial dehumidifiers to the residents to soak up any water from the walls and structure. I leave them running for a few days, and the pump is still running in the driveway when my WS gets home. She begins to tell me that I was stressing her out with this scenario and that I should have told her when she returned. Okay, thought you'd be interested in the possibility of losing the home and almost causing $40K in possible damages. Then she continued to say that the pump in the driveway is like so humiliating and that if I don't move it, she would. It's still pouring and attempting to flood the home, and my neighbors have even come over to offer assistance. When I get home after a morning appointment, the pump has been relocated to the garage. I eventually get the pipe fixed, and the rain stops long enough for the water to drain. On the nose, about a week later, I have a terrible sickness that I can't seem to shake. On every given spring Saturday, I begin watching movies and napping. Mid-afternoon, my chest begins to pain severely and refuses to go away despite over-the-counter medicines. I tell my WS what's going on, and I believe it's becoming serious. Can't you look for yourselves? Ugh. So I'm not driving you to the emergency room. I'll accompany you, but I'm not driving. Fine, I'll drive myself to the hospital. Thank you very much for coming with me, dear. I arrive at the hospital's emergency room and am checked in. When I arrive, they see that my oxygen level has dropped somewhat, but nothing serious. We've been waiting for nearly 3 hours and my chest is hammering, making it difficult to breathe. My ex refuses to see me, so I to the front desk and almost fall down. They promise to come collect me and put me in a wheelchair. Finally, someone arrives and takes additional vitals, but they don't get to the bottom of the issue. I tell them I believe I have pneumonia because my chest aches and I can't breathe. They minimize it and say it's unlikely, but they transport me to a stretcher in an empty room. I wait another hour, and by this time I'm very bewildered and hardly breathing. My ex is gazing at me with dagger eyes and is completely unhelpful. To this woman's horror, I actually start shouting help. Someone help me. Again and over. I don't mind. I feel like I'm going to die. I'm going to die. After approximately 3-5 minutes, someone walks in furious that I'm shouting, but agrees to examine me. My oxygen level had plummeted to roughly 50%, which is life-threatening on its own, and my blood had almost become septic. I have bacterial pneumonia, which I most certainly got by swallowing that piece of groundwater in my mouth while rescuing the home. She never expressed gratitude to me. She actually said that she deserved more than half of the home and that she should probably take it all. After being given various fluids, I was given a morphine drip to aid with the chest aches. I drift in and out of awareness with ease, and when I emerge from my trance I catch her eyes. This soulless human being stares back, as though wishing I had perished right there. We have $1,000,000 policies that would be a big help to this lady. It was then that I saw the big red sign. I sensed something was wrong, and even though I caught her by mistake, I began keeping track of what she said and who she said she was with. They didn't add up, and I knew something wasn't right. The frosting on the cake was that the rounds of antibiotics I was taking, along with the stress of the divorce, wiped out my gut flora. I'd spend the following year discovering that I had small intestine bacterial overgrowth, SIBO. Story tuned for the next part.